This episode of Sewing Out Loud is brought to you by our SewHere.com members. This podcast and our community is mostly funded by the support of listeners like you. If you love the podcast, check out SewHere.com/membership to see how you can keep it in your ears for years to come and get fun stuff to boot.
Welcome to Sewing Out Loud, the official podcast of ZD Sewing Studio. Here are your hosts, ZD and Mallory.
Sewing Out Loud. Hello and welcome to the podcast. I'm Mallory Donahue.
And I'm ZD Donahue.
And we got an excellent question in the Facebook group today. And actually right now, just full disclosure, and I'm sending this out in the newsletter today, ZD and I are on a podcast sprint.
Oh, that's a good one. I feel like it's a marathon. Okay. You might think it's a sprint.
Well, it's a sprint because we have to go fast, okay?
We're sprinting through a marathon.
Ultra marathon. Betsy, what would it be? Betsy can tell us.
Betsy knows all those races.
Things. Yeah. So if you have any suggestions or anything for podcast topics, let us know. We've got some stuff coming up in June, and we want to make sure we're trying to get episodes.
We've got to spend some time at Baby Lock, and then
my husband's going back to school.
Yeah, Derek thinks he has to go
Actually,
be highly educated.
I think Derek needs to go be highly educated, but we won't get into that. Okay, so it's totally my fault.
I think he's already probably smarter than anybody he would learn anything from.
I'm making him go back to school.
Yeah.
So anyway, we're on a podcast sprint, and we've already got a few episodes recorded, but I think I want to push this one to the front because Tasha asked, she said, after years of listening to the podcast, I'm about to get the Baby Lock Imagine Serger. She will join Sophie, my Baby Lock Presto.
And she spells it right, too.
Yes, Sophie.
S-E-W.
And I am so ridiculously excited. Most importantly, what should I name her? What are your favorite pet names for your serger or sewing machine? Second, this is obviously my first serger. So please tell me your favorite things to buy with a serger. Like, I'm guessing I'll need thread. I guess I need 4 of them. Blah, 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 blah. All this stuff. Feet.
Right.
Okay, so I'm gonna stop. Oh, she says, background on what I sew. Immediate serging plans. Garment knits, the full range, from thin double brush poly all the way to thicker French terry. Long-term serging plans, nice drapes for the house, so stable but thick fabric. Thank you. And then, in case you all were wondering, the Imagine will be named Lennon.
Yeah.
Nice. Get it? Do you get it, Mom? Do you get it? I'm just
like
I know. I'm just
Lennon, like Lennon, like how's she spelling it?
Lennon.
Okay.
N-O-N.
Okay.
Yeah, there we go. I almost spelled it wrong.
Like, okay, I kind of name my cars, but I don't know why I don't name my sewing machines.
Well, I think
it's because we have so many and they get traded out. And
I think it's because we sold them. Like, I know the part number.
Yeah, exactly.
Machines.
We know like the stock number, like the BL863 or something. Whatever.
Well, and this is not a slight to anyone working at Baby Lock, but sometimes like we would talk to some of the marketing people and, you know, since we were dealers, we really had to know that stuff. And I was like, oh, well, that'll only fit the BLES8,
right.
not the BLE8-W2,
right.
you know. And they're like, oh, I'm like, yeah, so don't include that accessory,
That's
you know,
right.
or something. And anyway, we really had to know that stuff. We don't know it. I don't think.
But if I was going to name my machines, I would name them things like Slick.
Like Turbo.
Yeah.
Like things like
Nitro.
that. Someone recommended Sergio. And
That's
I liked
good.
That one.
Sergio's really good.
So we would have to have like a Sergio and like Sergey.
Right.
And like Serge. Because we got a lot of Sergers. Okay.
Right. Sergey is good.
All right. So.
Or we could make sure that we gave them names so that they could like choose their own sexual identity. We give them
gender
neutral.
Identity.
Yeah, their gender. They give them like a neutral name.
So anyway. The Imagine is going to be named Lennon. I said it'd be a great podcast topic. And let's just start off. We've already done a podcast about this a little bit. Let's start off talking about thread a little bit.
Yeah. Well, obviously, you will want some serger thread because
you need some serger.
Because you want a lighter weight thread than your machine construction thread, and you want bigger volumes of thread.
Okay.
Sergers can use a whole lot of thread.
I want to talk about this. This came up in the comments.
Yeah.
Someone said, like, The loopers take more thread than the needles.
Right.
So make sure to buy cone thread for the loopers. Well, just wait a second here.
Yeah, wait there.
Okay. Thread on the cone, it's not just the cone.
It's not just because it's a bigger amount.
Yeah, that's not the only reason. Okay.
It is called Serger thread because it is a lighter weight thread, because you're using at least three
Three,
threads. So you're adding bulk.
Yes.
So it's a lighter thread.
More so than the packaging, it needs to be Serger thread. Like,
So-
there's other threads that are sold on
It's
cones.
denier is what.
Yeah.
But
And the
that's
weight?
not used as much anymore. But
Uh-huh.
you don't hear that. But yes, it's a lighter weight thread.
Yeah,
Okay.
so it needs to be Serger thread. Don't be like, oh, this is on a cone, it must be good for my Serger.
That could be quilting thread.
Yes, it could be quilting
It
thread.
could be bobbin thread.
Could be
I mean,
bobbin thread. Yeah, we
yeah.
had that happen a
Yeah.
lot. People,
which actually I've used bobbin thread
Well, and-
on my Serger. I mean, it's not that
Sure.
you can't use it, but you want some Serger specific thread when
Yeah.
you're starting out,
So-
especially because you'll get to know it and know what it's like.
and we recommend the Madeira Aerolock thread. That's our favorite Serger thread.
Absolutely.
There are other brands. If she's buying from a dealer, obviously they're going to have a good recommendation for her.
Our recommendation that we don't approve of. I don't know.
Well, we
I
gave
don't-
our recommendation.
we gave our recommendation.
If they're a Baby Lock dealer, Baby Lock,
I would assume that they're going to have a
And they
good
carry
quality.
they're going to carry
Well,
something
you
nice.
just don't know. I hate to say that. You just don't know.
ZD will not commit.
I have seen.
ZD's not committed.
Okay, I'm sorry.
It's
I
fine.
have seen some
It's fine.
real crappy thread on some real good Sergers.
Okay.
Okay.
It's fair. It's fair.
Yeah.
All right. So get some nice thread,
Now you can use construction thread in your Serger.
like sewing machine construction
Yes,
thread.
it will work.
It's just
okay.
kind of
You can use that in your needle. There's no reason to. You want to lessen the bulk. There's no reason to add bulk here.
Yes. Serger thread per yard is actually less expensive.
It will cost you less. The spool, of course, may cost you more because it's bigger.
Yes.
Um,
So when you're first getting Serger thread, make sure it's Serger thread. People were talking about colors.
right.
Get the colors that you like. Some people gave some
Right.
good advice about how the needles are what will show
Yes.
on a seam. Possibly.
Actually, it's your last needle. It's not
your
even.
leftmost needle.
It's your leftmost needle, right?
Is what will show. That is all correct. We covered that in our thread blending episode, which I'll link to. But when I was counseling people on what Serger thread to buy,
Recommending.
recommending, it was kind of a counseling session. Okay,
And what we would call it is starting your thread library.
thread library. I'd say you get 4 dark neutrals, 4 light neutrals, and then a few colors that you like because that's the fabrics that you may end up working with.
I mean, what I considered basically the neutrals were, you got some browns, beiges, some grays, some
Black.
blacks, and then your white off-whites, like your
Yeah.
ecrus. Then we had always our Miracle Mauve that we
Yes.
would suggest, because that did well with red, pink, browns, rust.
I could go look at the thread color for the magic mauve.
Yeah.
But don't think you have to buy 4 of every color. That is not.
You absolutely don't.
And
yeah.
if you want to, your dealer will sell it to you.
Your dealer will sell you whatever she. Yes.
Yes,
and that's fine.
That's
I mean,
fine. But yeah, I would always get somebody black,
yes.
charcoal, dark gray, and like a
a
little
light gray or
lighter
medium,
gray,
lighter medium gray. Usually there's 4 or 5 grays in a line.
And then I'd do white and like beige and cream and maybe
Right.
a light like silver gray.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'd say, oh, you like purple? Well, you probably will only need 1 purple. When
Right.
You're stitching up your purple T-shirt.
Or if somebody said, I love blue. I always use blue. Blue is then I'd say, okay, let's get you a light blue, a dark blue, and a medium blue.
There you go.
And that's what I would tell people to do in embroidery also
Uh-huh.
when they were picking colors.
Well,
is-
we're going to do
yeah.
an episode like this for
Right.
embroidery.
We're going to
I
do
think.
embroidery like this too.
Yeah, thanks, Tasha. You've given us like 3 episodes to do.
But so, if there is a color that you like, or if there is like a project that you have in mind, say you're going to like do a bunch of band uniforms and
Yeah.
you know that they
They're all
have
red
this,
or
they're all
whatever.
red or they're all gold or whatever. You may want to buy, you know, a couple spools of gold, and maybe you want just one gold that matches that, and then you'll go to a lighter gold or something like that. I don't know.
So
You know,
that purple T-shirt. Let's pretend it's like a dark purple.
right.
So there's a dark purple Madeira
Right.
Aerolock thread. We would put that in their basket, and I said, okay, so this is going to go in your needle. I'll tell you
Right.
to stitch this up with a 3 thread. This is going to go in your needle, and then you can use your dark gray and your black for your loopers
That's
on this
correct.
dark purple shirt. If it's a light purple shirt,
Right.
we need our light purple thread.
Well, or you
know.
could put whatever you like. If you want to see it, if you want to
Yeah.
think it's pretty, you know, you use whatever you want
and
in
it really
there.
only shows if you're like stretching.
Or you
it.
make a mistake.
Yeah, or something like that. You know.
Yeah, right.
So, yes,
Right.
really the thread blending is good. Actually, it will help you too if you need to take stitches out. We talked about that.
That's
in the
right.
thread
I
blending
always tell
episode. It's a
people
great idea.
using 3 different colors. So if I really wanted to keep it all gold or yellow or something, then I'd use that family of gold and yellow.
Yes.
Or I'd use that family of brown. But it helps me to know that, you know, my lower looper I made the darkest color, you know, my upper looper is the medium color, and my you know, needle is lightest. Now, the one thing you do have to consider is if you're in a sheer or a lighter
Right.
fabric, and it's going to actually show through. So a lighter fabric, for instance, if you were on yellow, you may not want to use black.
And browns.
You
and
know,
stuff,
browns as your looper colors. You know, you may then you're going to hit your creams and your whites probably.
Yeah. Okay, so if you are going to see your seam, perhaps I think a sheer seam is a really good example of this. And I want to talk about that person who said that looper threads eat up more thread. They're totally right. Okay?
Absolutely.
So what I would say,
I wanted to address this in a manner too. I'll see if you address it the same way.
well, what I would say, let's pretend you're doing dark purple sheer seam. I would get 2 of the dark purple for your loopers, and then wind a bobbin to use on your needle
Yes.
if you felt like you
And
wanted
where do
to
you
save
wind a
that.
bobbin on your serger?
You can't. You have to go over to your
Oh.
sewing machine.
Is that what you do?
Yes.
Well,
you
I would
do.
probably, you know what I would do? I would wind 2 bobbins.
Yeah.
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 And
You ready?
actually, I have a cup sitting over on with my serger thread where I have, you know, wound bobbin thread
Yeah.
onto, or not bobbin, serger
Serger
thread
thread
onto
onto bobbin.
bobbins, and I know that serger thread, and I've got a little cup there so that I can pull those out if I need them. Now, the thing about, okay, so say you know, there are people honestly that thread their sergers and they put like white in them and they never change it, or they
Right.
put gray in it and they never change it, or whatever. And I assume this is to avoid rethreading. So your looper threads will go first.
Right.
Okay. So if you're someone like me who changes a lot, I will look at my spool and go, "Ooh, there's a lot of thread on here. I'm going to use this one on my looper today."
Right.
You know, it's not a thread that or a color maybe I use a lot. So I'll use it a lot on my looper. So how you even those spools out is
by
alternating
rotating
them or rotating is a better word. Rotating
Yeah.
them, you know, off of the looper and onto the needle, or
Now,
vice versa.
We say that you don't need, 4 of every color and
Right.
thread blend stuff. We do have a lot of thread. Like, we like the versatility. We
Right.
want to know we have these colors. So,
And
you know.
still I'll go and go, "Ooh, I wish I had a periwinkle."
right.
You know.
So I would budget for this,
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
And also, okay, here's another tip. If we're talking about what you leave the store with, okay?
Right.
If you're going to finance your machine, some dealers will offer financing, and often it is interest-free. I would allow people to add on to that purchase.
Right. We would. So it doesn't always have to be machine specific.
Yeah, sometimes it does. So
It just depends
Right.
on how what the deal is, but usually you are, what do you want? What should I say? Qualify
yeah.
for a number amount, a
Right.
dollar amount. So say you're buying, a machine for $1,200, and it may come back from that finance company that you're qualified for $4,000. So you can spend $4,000.
There you go.
Okay.
Now, since it's zero interest,
Right.
that's the nice thing. But I would, ask your dealer. I'd also ask your dealer say, do you have any deals for the things that I buy today when I
Right.
pick up the machine? Because we would often allow people to have a discount, and I think that helps people build up their thread libraries, build up their needle libraries. So ask those things of your dealer, any special deals like that, because it really can save you money. Like
Right.
I've seen people come back and come back again and come
Right.
back again. And I'm like, man,
Right.
if you just would have gone home with what I told you to, you would have saved like $20 in gas. You
Right.
know?
Exactly. Isn't that the truth? And you wouldn't have had, right.
No, it really would have.
No,
yeah.
absolutely. But I do think when you buy a new machine, you think about the machine price. Now, sometimes there will be a package involved.
Yes.
Okay, so they're saying, well, this month we have this decorative thread that comes with the machine, but they might not have like regular construction thread or something.
Right.
So you need to find out, is there any bonus deal this month? That kind of thing. And then I would say to them, well, I am considering let them help you think it through. The other thing that they may let you do is they may give you a week's window or, a 10-day window that if you purchase something, you can get that discount.
Yeah,
Everybody's different.
So just ask,
Right.
and be respectful, of course, but that is something that I would do during our, quote, sit-down delivery, where someone
Right.
came in and learned about their machine. So let's take a little break and come back and talk about things other than thread, which I think is really important. Do you have anything else to add about thread before we go, besides listen to that thread blending podcast?
Well, think about where you're going to store it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Buy some thread storage boxes.
Whatever.
All
Yeah.
right.
Just whatever. You're gonna have to make a new space for that new baby.
Hello there, you fabulous sewing machine. Did you know that our podcasts and Facebook group are mostly funded by our fabulous members? We have corporate sponsors, but our individual members are the people who ensure that we can keep producing our quirky, inclusive, sometimes slightly offbeat sewing media.
You can support the sewing media you love starting at $1.50 per month. As you go up the scale, you get perks like a universal wardrobe planner, the So Long and So Happy zine, access to patterns and discounted classes, and even a monthly live broadcast from Mallory and me.
We are so thankful for our past, present, and future members. Any level of membership is helpful toward producing our podcasts, videos, and the time it takes to moderate our growing Facebook community. Go to sewhere.com/membership to check it out. Sewing out loud. All right. We just want to briefly cover needles, because what we're going to tell you is just like buy needles. Do not leave that store without purchasing some extra needles.
It's silly.
It's really silly. Tasha, don't leave the store without buying extra needles.
It's silly not to have needles for everything.
Yeah, your machine's going to come with like maybe a pack, maybe two of extra needles that will go in your machine. It'll come with a couple needles in it, but just in case something happens.
That's right.
You cannot sew without the needles.
That's
and
right.
They don't go bad. Okay.
No, they won't get old.
Like
you don't
they
have to throw them out like that stuff in your refrigerator.
Yeah, the packages will last. I mean, and with Serger needles, there aren't as many
choices.
Options.
Yes.
And there aren't as many required options.
Right. Right.
So imagine that Tasha's takes the HA by 1 SP needles. And I think they only come in 2 sizes. It's like 75 and 90 or 80 and 90.
Yep, but aren't some of them more round? Like, aren't some of them stretch and some of them knit? I don't know. I'm not sure.
I mean, stretch and not. No, well, Special Point is HA by 1 SP. They're already
a special point. Yeah.
I would just send people home with 1 or 2 packs of each size.
Yes.
Get them.
Absolutely.
Yes.
The other thing you might want to think about is now baby locks come with an extra upper blade.
Yeah.
Okay. That is part of when you have what we call your sit-down delivery, which everyone should have when they buy a new machine.
Which not everyone has.
Yeah, but
As
it
I
really
said
bothers
before,
me when they don't do
I
this.
think we were at the top end of supporting
yes.
machines.
Aftercare. I called it aftercare.
People are like, what do you do?
We actually had somebody that thought we delivered it to their home and one time.
Yeah, but
then we
still,
started calling it the sit-down delivery instead of the
still
delivery.
dealers were surprised.
But okay, usually the blade that gets harmed or wears out is the upper blade. You've got two blades on your serger. Now, you may not even be willing to change this out yourself.
Right.
But what I'm going to tell you is if you have that blade in hand and it needs to be changed, you can take your machine back into the dealer and hand them the blade and they will change it for you.
Yeah.
Things like this get on back order. The
Right.
other thing that can happen is your particular model takes a particular blade.
Uh-huh.
And if you are not returning to that dealer or you move someplace or you have someone else fixing it or something, you need that blade and you may be going on a forage to get it.
Right.
When you're wanting to use it right now.
Well, so you're going to have that blade at home if you have a baby lock, or you're going to have it if
Right.
you've purchased it extra. And then when you do get your machine serviced, keep it with the machine just in case it needs to be replaced.
Absolutely. And
They
if
do
you have,
get on back order
however you
sometimes.
have to keep it, tape it inside the compartment of the machine or tape it inside your owner's manual or something to make sure you can access it and go back to it.
Okay, feet for a serger, like an overlock machine, like Tasha's getting. Honestly, I would really say that, bare bones minimum, like what I'd really want someone to go home with is a clear foot.
Yeah,
In
Clearfoot's
addition,
really nice.
There are lots of other serger feet that we love, but I don't think you need them right away necessarily.
You don't, unless that's a bonus for the month or something, and they're giving you some little, package that goes with it, or they happen to be on sale because they're not inexpensive.
Right.
Okay, because there's piping feet, there's a hem foot.
The pearl and piping foot. The
Right,
hem
there's two pearl and
foot,
piping foots,
the
two different
elastic
sizes,
foot.
elastic foot, and a puffing or gathering foot.
The gathering foot.
I think
And
yeah.
We do love all those feet,
We use them.
but it's not.
They're not essential.
Yeah, unless you told me I'm going home, I want to put ruffles on a bunch of
Right.
tablecloths really fast. I'd say, okay, you need to get gathering foot,
Right.
or something.
And that
like
might be something too that you want to make sure you let your dealer know. I am, especially if you're buying it and in anticipation of hitting this certain project,
Right.
When you get it home. When I go home, what I really want to do is this. And that also, if they do a delivery, have them demonstrate how you do that particular thing
Yeah, we would
in
do
that
that.
delivery. Right.
So
You can bring your fabric with you and everything if you want.
So I get the clear foot. Baby lock will often have that, like Mom mentioned. I'll just go into specifics here. They'll often have this 6-foot package that is either available for purchase. It may come with the machine some months. It may not. It might be on sale. If it is available for purchase, even when it's not on sale, it's less expensive than getting those feet separately.
Separate, right.
And baby lock serger feet are definitely something you have to get from the dealer.
Yeah.
You see those foot kits online
Won't
that might
work.
be universal or something for a sewing machine. Serger feet are a different ball of wax.
Remember that your self-threading baby lock serger is made by Baby Lock.
That's a baby lock exclusive thing.
Most other sergers are made by two manufacturers, so they are more universal in what they need. But the Baby Lock self-threaders are made in a factory owned by the Baby Lock people.
Yes. So make sure that you are getting those feet from them. So check that out. But like I said, Tasha's sewing goals, she said she just wanted to she's sewing knit garments. You're going to be good with your normal foot or with your clear foot. And do we have the clear foot on our 4-thread serger right now, or do we just have the normal foot on
I
there?
have to look. I think it's the normal one.
Yeah, I mean, it has a tape guide on it, which we've covered before. It will, so you can put elastic in,
Right.
you can sew over ribbon or, strips
I think
of
we have
fabric.
the clear one on the Ovation. For some reason,
Yeah.
we just have the regular one on the.
So I would actually
fourth
say
threader.
I think I don't use the clear foot as much on the serger as I do on the cover stitch personally.
Right.
But whatever. So just feet wise, consider the clear foot. Check out that foot package, but it's not something you have to have when you go home.
And the clear foot has not, till this point in time, come in that specialty package. You always have to purchase it separate.
That's right. Separate. So it does not come with it.
And that is with Baby Lock. Now, not all dealers of all sergers are going to have a Clearfoot available.
Yeah, we would
Okay.
always try to have one in stock because.
But what I'm saying is they're not even made for every serger.
That's right. That's very true. Okay, so you got needles. Now, this is something that comes with a baby lock serger that you wanted to mention. I think a very nice pair of tweezers.
Yes.
Okay.
So you and long and usually with an angled tip on them.
Uh-huh.
And that will help you if you need to pull a thread through or something. They're nice. I also, something that doesn't come with them is a pair of hemostats. And I just like to have those for whatever sundry reason I may need them for.
Mm-hmm.
But often what comes with your serger is a pair of tweezers. Sometimes you'll get a few extra needles.
Yes.
Sometimes you will get a needle threader.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so if you don't have a self-threading machine or a self-threading needle threader on your machine, a needle threader will come with your machine, and you might if it doesn't and you don't have a self-threading mechanism, you may want to ask, is there some sort of needle threader?
Yeah. Okay, and then you're going to get an owner's manual with your machine if you get it from a dealer, which is fabulous. But Baby Lock makes these things, which are very nice. They're called inspirational guides.
Yes,
They used
which
to be
makes
called
me think I'm
workbooks.
joining a religion or something.
You are.
Yeah,
You are
I
joining
guess I
the
am.
Baby
Or
Lock
going to a
Serger
yoga class,
or
something
like
like that. Yeah.
So they used to be called workbooks, but when people talk about, and people meaning us, like
Right.
the versatility of your serger, these inspirational guides
Are
are
excellent.
really amazing.
And Baby Lock, Tacony, here in the United States, produces them
In
themselves in-house. And they're colorful, and they're in like a notebook form. So you can take a page out if you wanted to or not. And they're very explicit in what you need to do to get the effect they're showing you.
And they give you like some extras, like extra
Yeah.
techniques. Okay, this is, if you did get the 6-foot
Right.
kit, it goes more into detail about how to do things like the gathers, etc. If you are at a dealer and they have like a really good serger book they recommend, like we
Yes.
would carry like 6 books
like
in the shop.
we had a couple
You
of
know-
sort of generalized serger books
Uh-huh.
that we could recommend. And those would help you with sort of learning the stitches and what they were for. And maybe the sequence of putting a garment together. So anything like that. I will mention Palmer and Plesh.
Uh-huh.
Okay, that was the first serger book I ever bought in my life, which was, I guess, in the 60s or 70s. And I think it was in the 70s. And I'm saying that, and then maybe it was later. I don't know. But they showed you, like, how to put a T-shirt together, like in what
Yeah.
sequence, what made sense or whatever. And that really helped me to get, because it's a different, a lot of times it's a different way that you want to do it than on a conventional machine. So, look through those books, ask the dealer and, I will say this, and I am on the internet as we speak. Do not rely on the internet and people saying they know how to use a serger unless you
Unless
really
it's us.
know they know how to use a serger. Like, I have seen such poor information, and poor product.
Well,
When they come out with it and they show it, and you're like, well, that's ugly and ripply and awful.
there is even a little bit of not so great information on this thread here in the group, but I've tried to clarify it as best I can. And
Yeah.
that's why we're recording this podcast. But yeah, a serger, when we do this episode for sewing machine and embroidery
Right.
machine and things like that, it's going to be a lot longer. Sergers really, like, out of the box.
Yeah.
They're
It
going
kind
to up your knit game. They're going to finish those fabrics. They especially a very reliable one like the Imagine. Like, you're getting a really nice serger, Tasha.
Right.
So yeah, you're going to be pretty much set. Now let's go into cover stitch machine a little bit.
No.
Oh no.
We're going to talk about thread nets.
Oh.
Because
Okay.
a thread net, you need the thread nets when you need them. They don't have to go on every spool of thread. What a thread net does is it keeps the thread from falling down off the spool as you use it. Because if it falls down off the spool when you use it, it will get caught. Okay, and then all of a sudden you have more tension on one of your threads.
Yes.
And you get a lousy stitch. Okay. there is a first of all, do not cut them in half. They are not too long.
Yep.
Okay.
Unless you get that thread net on a roll.
Oh, well, now
You know
that's
that
possible.
exists.
Right.
Yeah.
But they honestly should be like twice as long as your spool is not too long.
Yeah,
Okay.
it would be okay for it to be
Right.
that long.
So we had this just happen not too long ago, a week or so ago, where someone was like, "Oh, my Serger, and it doesn't work, and I just had it in. It's the end of the world," and the thread net was on incorrectly. And that, don't you remember when she was getting tightness, and then it was?
I didn't realize that was the problem.
That was
I
what
didn't
happened,
see that,
and that makes sense
get
because
resolved.
what was happening is her tension was getting tight and
Sure.
letting go, getting tight and letting go. So she had it on incorrectly, and as the thread fell, it got caught on the end of the net and tightened up until it popped off, and then it got okay again, and then it came around and it got tight. So it was in a cyclic type manner.
Yeah. So your Serger might come with 4, Tasha.
It should.
And
I hate it when they don't.
And
but yeah.
the cover stitch machine that has 8 threads, it comes with 8 thread nets. However, if you can get more, that's great, because ZD and I, when we use the Maxi Lock stretch,
We leave them on our Maxi Lock.
we leave them on, and it's not that the thread comes off when the threads are just hanging out in storage, but it's just it eliminates a step. It's like, oh,
Right.
I get out my Maxi Lock stretch.
I
And it
think,
already has the
especially
thread
with
net on it.
especially with the stretch threads
Yeah.
or any of the woolly nylons or anything like, it confines them, and they tend to get staticky and stick
Yeah.
to each other. So there are, I know I posted online or in the Facebook group. There was a tutorial on thread nets from a thread company. Look at the thread and I can't remember. Was it Madeira? I don't remember what it was. But they showed how to put a thread net on.
Correctly.
Yes.
Yay.
Yeah.
Actually, I think we could make a GIF of that we could just share
Well, that's
over
true.
and over again.
But they don't just go on like slide down. They have to go up into the spool and cup around
From the bottom.
From the bottom. So they have so you don't always need them. Okay, we most always use them on the stretch threads.
Yeah.
They just keep you out of
Keep
trouble.
everything tame.
Right. So you will want thread nets. I never use them on regular thread. I can't think of a
No,
time.
I don't use them like on our Madeira Aerolock.
I don't think of a
Serger
time
thread.
that I use them on regular
I
thread.
would use them on metallic sometimes, on the stretch thread mostly. We have some older rayon embroidery thread that wants to slide down.
And we do use embroidery thread on
Yeah.
our machine sometimes.
Okay.
Now, before
Uh-huh.
I've got other things. I'm not finished. So the other thing about thread, you may be using pearl cotton or something in your loopers, like non-needle threads.
Mhm.
These will not fit on your spool system. Okay, so you're going to need a little cup or a thread stand or something. And I love a big plastic margarita glass
And
because it holds it up high.
There
and-
are a couple of products. It's like an auxiliary horizontal spool pin that can go on your spool pin.
Right.
So that's another thing. But yeah, that's a good point.
So you
won't
may
have to buy that at your dealer, though.
right.
At the margarita
At
glass.
the end of like summer one year, it was when we had the shop. I went and bought like every plastic margarita glass that was on clearance. And I love them, and they work, and it looks like pretty. The other thing is you're going to manufacture a bunch of trash and scraps when you're sewing, okay? And if you do not have a table that has like a trash bin in it, right? If you have a Serger table, more than likely it has like a little built-in trash
like
bin,
a
scrap
Serger
bin.
piece of surging furniture.
Right.
Yeah.
So there are things you can buy, tables that you can put under the machine, little portable things. There are many contraptions. Dealers may have all different kinds.
One thing that we used to sell was called a trim bin.
Yeah.
And they last forever.
And I loved it.
They're plastic. They have a little trash bag on them.
Yeah.
And that's a really good point, Mom.
Right.
The
Now,
trim bin
you
is
can, and
important.
people do, take like, the plastic grocery bags and like stick them under the feet and hang them off and let it go into there. And you can do that. It kind of gets cumbersome and messy and doesn't work as well. So think about a trash bin, especially if you're financing all this stuff at one time.
Right, exactly. No, a few of my people were like, "This is just worth it to me." No,
Right.
financing is a very personal decision. It might not be
Yes.
for everybody. Like we are
But
totally
you know,
realizing
the
that.
thing
but,
is like financing, if there is no interest and you pay it off, it's just letting
yeah.
you,
Or if you're someone
space
who-
out your budget.
who saves and is financing ahead of time,
Right.
just put, if you're using, I know that some of our people use the Wine app, you need a budget tool that I'm using now. So if you're going to put in your monthly goals, a category, and you need to, put so much money in it every month, just budget for this stuff. So trim bins were under $20.
I used to think it was great when somebody would come in and buy a machine and they would pull out like all these $100 bills.
Yeah.
And they would pay for part of it with that because this is birthday and this is Christmas and I said I wanted money for my anniversary, and they would have all these $100 bills, and then they would have part that they would probably finance
or
too.
something,
But
yeah.
they were like, "Man, I've been saving. This has been in my piggyback," and so it was always cute when they brought in their $100 bills and started rolling them out.
Yeah, especially when somebody had been looking at the Serger for a long
Yeah,
time, and
yeah.
we've been teaching them to sew or something. No, it was always like a really cool like celebration. So, can we talk about cover stitch a little bit?
I think I'll let you now.
Okay. Well, actually, before we talk about cover stitching, what about one of those mini vacuum attachment kits?
Well, which you should have already.
Okay.
But yes, you need it. And do not use canned air in your Serger. It's not, there's several reasons. One is it will blow crap it back into it. Another reason is canned air has moisture in it. We used to do this. We
Well,
found out it's not a good idea about
and-
20 years ago. So don't do it.
We just did that episode too on how to clean your Sergers. That's a good one to link to as well. Okay, so cover stitch. This is where I'd say, everything we said before, get for your cover stitch machine.
Yeah,
You
Serger and
might-
cover stitch, very similar.
You might get a little matchy-matchier on the thread. Okay? It's just easier when you're cover stitch, top stitching, just to have two spools of whatever,
It
blue
is.
or purple or black or something like that. Now, I personally, if I was top stitching my black shirt and I had black and charcoal, I'd use those in the needle. Like, I would be okay with that. Maybe not everybody would.
Yeah. Well, and
Um,
again, you can, in the needle, you can use that spool of
You can
off
wind a
the
bobbin.
bobbin you've
Mhm.
wound, because it doesn't take that much thread.
But also, like, if you're gonna have a cover stitch machine, I would just buy a little more thread.
Mallory's
I
got her
just-
eyes up in her head
just
going,
buy
buy
some
all
frickin'
this
thread, okay?
Right. And know that, okay, so we use Serger thread on our cover stitch machine.
Yes.
Again, because generally, unless you're just chain stitching, generally you are using at least 3 threads. If you're cover stitching, you have at least 2 needles and a looper. Okay, so it's like the opposite.
Yeah.
Usually,
Yeah.
on the Serger, you've
Yeah.
got 2 loopers and a needle, and on the cover stitch machine, you'll have 2 needles and a looper,
Right.
or 3 needles and a looper.
Uh-huh.
And that's a lot of times where I wind a bobbin on
Yeah.
the cover stitch machine, is because I've decided to use that 3rd needle.
Yeah, so that is a great point. And then a little side note, the cover stitch machines that ZD and I use, they're also Sergers, okay? Like,
Absolutely, we use combo machines.
so you might have a standalone.
So we want also to make sure we have a blade for that.
Right.
But if you have a cover stitch only, there will not be a blade involved.
Right. So on top of everything else that we just talked about, foot-wise on a cover stitch, I would say definitely get a clear foot.
The clear foot, and you'll, if you look at any of our demos on the cover stitch, I'm always talking about how I've picked my landmark,
Yeah.
off of that foot. And in fact, even the sewing machines, we almost always have the J foot, which has that clear window in it.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm always saying here, this is here. I've chosen this
I'd
landmark.
say it's like somewhat optional on the overlock, on the Serger, but on the cover stitch, I'd say, please go home with this. You will be so much happier.
I just think you will too.
Yeah, and then there could be a foot kit for the cover stitch
Yep.
machine that goes with your overlock part of it, possibly in baby lock land. And then the other accessory that we think is so important that we know that baby lock manufactures is a fabric guide.
And this was a joke on me,
Yeah.
right? Because I was like, who needs a fabric guide? I can sew straight. What's the big deal? I've sewn straight all my life. Okay, and I never
See, these-
sold any of these fabric guides to anybody. I never recommended them. And then I went to a Serger boot camp at Baby Lock where I thought I knew everything. I knew everything except I had never used this fabric guide. Okay.
So heads up, Baby Lock team is going to be teaching us this next machine thing. ZD thinks she knows everything.
I
So
actually
does
did.
Mallory.
I actually did it the last one. In fact, Mallory goes, "Do you know this? My mother does this." So Mallory not only
Oh, they're used to us there.
In fact, they usually look at us and go, "Is there anything we left out?" Yeah.
They're probably just being nice to us. They're like,
But we're kind of Serger freaks in the world. We are Serger freaks. So I used this fabric guide, and it was fantastic.
And you loved it. You
Okay,
loved it.
it was just fantastic. Yes. So if they have, a fabric guide, I would consider getting it or find out how much it is and save up for it or whatever you have to do.
I just want to cover what it is real quick. Okay, the fabric guide on the cover stitch machine helps you to hem things. So when you're cover stitching, maybe this is why you like the cover stitch machine so much. If you're going to cover stitch and do it in the traditional manner, you cannot see.
You can't see so
underneath.
you are stitching from the top.
Like you should.
You're
right?
top stitching.
You're top stitching.
Which is how you should always top
so
stitch.
if you set this up correctly, you get to choose the depth of your hem.
Right.
And this could work out just absolutely perfectly for you where it covers and you don't have to trim afterwards if you don't want to.
So what you actually wind up doing is enclosing the raw edge of your hem under your looper threads on the bottom.
Yeah, so that fabric guide, and the one for the Ovation and the Triumph is like pretty drool worthy, I think. I think it's pretty sexy
I
fabric
will tell you,
guide.
even if I'm flipping my hem and I'm wanting my looper to show on the right side of my garment, I still like that because I know I'm getting a nice even stitch.
Sure.
And you can place it way far away from the needles.
Uh-huh.
Are real close. That's the other thing.
So I really, it's nice on the Evolution or the Evolve. If you have one of those older Sergers, you can still get one. But the one for the Ovation and the Triumph is like really cool.
They're really cool. Well, and they have a big bed.
Yes, that's why it can be.
And that's why it's so nice and it works so well.
Okay, for a cover stitch machine, what else would you tell someone to leave the store with besides?
Well, that needle threader thing is important again too. If it doesn't have its own needle threader, you want that.
Okay.
And it should have the tweezers. So I'm thinking of all the things that come with it actually. And you want to, if it's a Serger, of course you want one of the trim bins or something that the trash can go into.
I think that really, those are the things you want to leave the store with.
Now, some of the Serger books cover stitch.
Yeah.
But there is not a lot out there about cover stitch, honestly. It's sort of a limited amount.
You know who's published something? Is that Joanna Liu of The Last Stitch, and I've not read it, but I've heard good things, and she, I think, makes wonderful stuff.
Yes.
So it's on Amazon. You can check that out. I'll put a link to it in the show notes. Actually, I feel like during this podcast, we've just identified all of the things we need to publish about searching.
I know. I was
so
just
there's
thinking
not a book
about
on
that
this. So,
I was thinking about that too. But make sure, our first list with the Serger, you need the same things.
Yes.
For you. So if you have a Serger at home and you're now buying a cover stitch or a combo cover stitch Serger machine, those threads that you have, all that's going to transfer.
Yeah, all that's going to transfer.
Right.
Okay. Well, Tasha, we hope this helps you to spend wisely, to put your prioritize.
And there are specialty feet for later for everything.
For everything.
And if you're looking forward to that or you get interested, find out how much they cost. That may be a goal for you that you want a certain one.
Ask for gift certificates to your dealer for all the holidays.
That's
or
right.
all the birthdays or whatever is coming up for you. A lot of people would send in their family members.
We almost knew who was getting gift certificates. It would be like the same 12 people, for Christmas or whatever. Mother's Day.
Jane was an employee of ours, and she had 7 kids.
Yes.
And did she leave a list with us, or did she give them the numbers? She wanted the entire line of sulky blendable threads.
Right.
And they would come in, they'd be like, I'm supposed to get her one of these, And so she, all of them, they could spend like $7 a piece, and they could
and get the whole
help
thing.
fill her library. Okay, well, that is our podcast on what you should leave the store with when you get a new serger or cover stitch machine. And you can always email me at mallory@sewhere.com with topic suggestions or anything like that. Mom, take it away.
So long and so happy.
Thanks for listening to Sewing Out Loud. For even more expert sewing advice, visit sewhere.com.